As of right now, my ex is facing jail time. Her new boyfriend, who also happens to be a lawyer, will most likely be disbarred. 3 people are in state prison, and 2 more are on probation. It doesn't feel genuine even to type it out. 2. Tell you the whole picture, let me begin at the beginning. I'm 31 years old, and I met my now ex-fiancée Katie in the sports bar I run approximately 4 years ago. Indeed, I am aware of your thoughts. Managing a sports bar isn't exactly the most glamorous job. However, I enjoy what I do. I worked my way up the bartending ranks after graduating from college, but I never truly applied my business degree. I currently oversee one of our chain's most prosperous sites, which has a fantastic staff, devoted regulars, and an environment where even the employees look forward to going to work. In this industry, that is uncommon. Kind of real estate salesperson who seems to post just sold another $1.3 million listing on LinkedIn every week. Katie was incredibly successful. One evening, she entered the bar with several of her buddies from high school. On paper, each of them 2 corporate lawyers, a dermatologist, a finance professional, hedge fund manager, and a marketing director at a large computer company, was extremely successful. They spent more than $600 on appetizers and beverages. That evening, Katie then began returning, often when I was working. We clicked right away. I appreciated her ambition, and she enjoyed that I made her laugh. In retrospect, I can see that there were warning signs from the beginning, particularly with her friends. It's so nice you're happy where you are, or have you ever thought about going into corporate management? Are examples of the small remarks they would make? I dismissed it at the time. You don't want to see the warning flags while you're falling for someone. Everything happened quickly. Incredibly quick. After 3 months, she was essentially living with me, and by the end of the year, she had moved into my flat. Not luxurious, but modern, with a doorman and security cameras. It was a pleasant 2-bedroom apartment in the heart of the city. Later on, that will be important. Due to my longer renting history and superior credit, the lease was in my name. Life was good. For a time, we were content even though Katie was making more than twice as much money in real estate as I was, something her friends never let me forget. I was also going up. I later assumed responsibility for training other managers at various sites after being promoted to general manager. We had good relations between our families. My parents admired her drive, and her parents were a kind elderly couple who adored me as if I were their own. I made up my mind to pop the question last December. I organized a weekend trip to this stunning mountain resort, which is roughly 3 hours distant. Private supper with a view of the lake was what I had planned. In the dessert, I even concealed the ring. I had always stated that she wanted a story that was worth telling. Even though it was corny, she replied. We spent the entire week celebrating, already planning our October nuptials before the winter arrived. Her parents were very giving after the summer bustle, by putting down $40,000 in deposits for the venue. Catering, flowers, and everything else. They pledged to cover the majority of the costs. The strangeness began at that point. All of a sudden, every choice she made had to involve her pals. They all had to agree on the color scheme. Their preferences had to be taken into account when designing the menu. It had to be at the best. Table according to the seating chart. And their teasing remarks regarding my work, they got more intense. Do you really want the ceremony to start at 6 o'clock? Then won't OP be at work? Perhaps we ought to go shopping for clothes on a Tuesday. It's likely to be a quiet evening at a sports bar. Katie never stood up for me. She occasionally shared their laughter. She occasionally concurred. Then followed the other changes. Emergency showings at odd hours and working late all the time. She kept her phone face down and changed the password. Isn't that classic cheating behavior? However, I had faith in her, or perhaps I was simply foolish. Most likely both. Let me now introduce you to Sarah. She frequently attends the bar, where she and her coworkers always gather on Wednesdays for trivia night. She is one of those clients you truly look forward to seeing since she is amiable, competitive, and consistently leaves generous tips. One Wednesday, though, she appeared. Strange, she kept looking at her phone, then back at it, and then at me. Hardly ever took part in trivia. She finally motioned for me to come over during a break and asked to speak. We entered the tiny office next to the kitchen. She appeared nervous, as if she were going to inform me of a death. She fidgeted with her phone case and started. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. But if it were my relationship, I'd want someone to tell me. Jenny, Sarah's sister, works at a fancy salon downtown where even a basic haircut costs more than my rent, it turns out. Jenny and Katie had been dating for a year, but Katie only made appointments during my work hours. Katie laughed as she talked on the phone for 2 hours with someone she kept calling babe and baby. During her highlight appointment that morning, flirting discussing a weekend trip. She pretended to be attending a real estate conference when she informed this guy that I was her idiot fiancé. Then Sarah took out her phone and showed me a tale Jenny had sent her on Instagram. It came from an upscale eatery in a different town. Katie was cuddling up with a man in a suit in the background of a random couple celebrating their engagement. Last Friday was that day. She informed me that night that she and her friends were going out for a girls' night at 9:52 p.m. She even texted me a posed selfie complete with wine glasses and face masks. The Instagram story's timestamp? 9:47 p.m. She texted me the phony picture 5 minutes prior. I was trembling, shaking physically. What else can you say to someone who has just broken your world? I thanked Sarah for the evening I paid there. Tab. Things like that don't bother my boss. After 5 more hours of working on autopilot, my mind was racing as I completed my shift. I refrained from confronting Katie that evening. Rather, I dug. We streamed Netflix on an old iPad. She reportedly forgot to get into her iCloud account on her phone when it was being repaired months ago. I took it open. She and her ex, let's call him Michael, exchanged hundreds of messages. This wasn't just a passing fancy. Since February, they had been getting together at a hotel for months. The messages were explicit. I won't give you the worst. It was more than just physical, though. They made fun of me, made plans for the future, and chuckled at how simple it was to maintain the deception. Her pals were also complicit. They made jokes about my employment and gave her advice on how to conceal the affair in a group chat. Michael, can at least afford a real restaurant? You'll receive more in the divorce, so wait until after the wedding. I grabbed screenshots, saved them to my Google Drive, sent myself an email with them, and even took pictures with my phone. I was determined not to lose this proof. Messages from the night I proposed were discovered. She texted him as I was anxiously rehearsing my speech. Baby, don't worry. Nothing is altered by this. It's only business. The person I truly adore is you. I didn't get any sleep that evening. Just sat on the couch and read over the past 4 months of falsehoods, wondering how someone could plan a future with me and share a bed with me while constantly stabbed me in the back. She returned. Home at around 7 o'clock the following evening, grinning and discussing the homes she had shown that day. She even inquired about my meal preferences. I didn't shout. I refrained from crying. I simply gave her the iPad with the messages open. She made an effort to remain calm. What am I meant to be observing? She inquired. She then noticed the date. The chat history. Her hands lost the iPad, and it fell to the ground with a crash. Suddenly, the mask fell off her face, and her entire demeanor altered. Perplexity, fear, anger. She began to yell at me for violating her privacy. Do you think that's possible? She was upset because of that. Fortunately, I've learned how to remain composed under pressure from my years behind the bar. While she spiraled, I remained calm and continued to scan through the texts. I returned the iPad to her after stopping at the ones from the night I proposed. I said, read that one aloud. She refused. Rather, she began to cry, but not the kind of tears that accompany shame. No, this was manipulative, planned tears, the kind that was intended to make me feel guilty for spotting her. She insisted that it was merely an error because it had no significance, that I was her future and Michael was her past. I was her. Meal ticket based on those communications. Spoiler alert. In order to obtain more in the divorce, she intended to remain married to me for a brief period of time. Her next move was to accuse me. Said that because I worked nights at the bar, I was emotionally unavailable. Claimed to be lonely. Claimed that because they were from the same world, Michael had a deeper understanding of her. Then she revealed this treasure. We could have been happy if you hadn't read my private messages. I eventually lost my temper at that point, by yelling but by being uneasy as well. We might have been content, while you and your friends were simultaneously planning your divorce and our wedding?" I asked her. I inquired as to how many of our memorable occasions, such as engagements, holidays, and birthdays, she had spoiled by texting him immediately after. Within hours, he received messages from each and every one of them. She changed strategies more quickly than a politician in the middle of a scandal. But the wedding deposits, my parents already paid for everything, came up out of nowhere. What are people going to think? Not a single word of apology. Money, not a single "I love you," only appearances. The wedding was off, I informed her. She had 30 days to vacate. Since I had already Googled it, I made sure to write as per our state's tenant laws. She had lived there long enough to have rights, even if she wasn't on the lease. Despite my anger, I wasn't going to act foolishly. She took out her phone at that point. I assumed that she was phoning her mother. Not at all. She was messaging her pals, her successful professionals, as they are termed. "You're going to regret this," she added, glancing at me. "You don't know who you're playing with." In fact, I laughed. "This is a lousy gangster movie, what?" I reminded her that she had 30 days and that I would be spending the night at my friend's house so she could begin packing. I began to assemble work equipment and clothing. She continued to smirk while crying while typing on her phone. "Right. Ought to have been my first caution," she responded. "They're already on their way," as I was about to enter. "To hear their side of the story, you should wait. I'm not a little guy now. I'm employed at a bar. I'm able to diffuse tense situations." However, there was something in her voice that caused my neck to stand on end. Just in case, I started recording on my phone. I'm glad I did. I watched them pull in halfway to my car, 2 vehicles, or 5 companions, the 2 attorneys, the financial executive, the physician, the director of marketing. He didn't wear work clothes this time. They appeared to have just left the gym. They also didn't appear content. As they climbed out, Katie watched from our balcony while I stood in the parking lot. In my pocket, my phone continued to record. Hannah, the finance executive, began yelling, "You abusive piece of," before I could move. "We will no longer allow you to harm Katie." The other 4 dispersed, obstructing my car and the building door. One of the attorneys, Rachel, took out her phone and declared loudly, "We are only here to assist Katie in getting her belongings safely. Nobody desires violence." Jessica, the other attorney, was texting something in the meantime, smiling as if it were all a game. Ashley, the marketing director, and Maria, the doctor, made an effort to appear tough, but their nervousness was evident. I raised my hands and spoke calmly. As required by law, I've given Katie 30 days' notice. I'm going to leave her alone. Don't escalate this, please. Hannah yelled at me, saying that they knew all about my abuse and that Katie couldn't spend any more nights with a monster. With my hand still up, I retreated. I remarked, "There are security cameras everywhere. Additionally, I'm recording this. Let me go, please." In hindsight, it was a mistake to bring up the recording. "He's threatening to release private recordings of Katie," Rachel yelled abruptly. "Take his phone." It all got crazy at that point. Hannah sprang for the pocket of my jacket. Jessica tackled me from behind as I turned to defend it. She may be 5'4", but I found out later that she played rugby in college. I'm 6'1", that was brought up at the trial. I fell to the floor. I was captivated by Jessica. Hannah began to kick me. Rachel continued to record while yelling, "Stop resisting. You're fighting back, but why?" Ashley and Maria simply stood still, doing nothing to help or stop it. I really tried not to fight back. I was aware of how it appeared. Smaller women, bigger males. All I did was try to shield my head. Then Katie rushes out of the apartment carrying our block of kitchen knives. The entire fucking block of wood. Not just one knife. She begins distributing knives to her buddies while yelling, "You need to learn your lesson." I'm not embarrassed to say that I freaked out. I was still under Jessica's control. I was being kicked by Hannah. They had knives. Now, too. I was able to free up one arm, take out my phone, and press the SOS emergency button. iPhone pro tip: if you press the power button 5 times, 911 will be called immediately. I began shouting, "Police are on the way." I hoped someone would hear me in the building. Hannah stabbed me in the arm after Rachel, who was still recording, yelled, "No one will believe you." I jerked away, so it wasn't deep, but enough that I would require 12 stitches later. There's blood all over. Maria and Ashley must have been alarmed by that, for they began to retreat. The minutes that followed were a blur. I recall Katie yelling, "Complete it." Jessica shouting, "Stay still." Then there were sirens, plenty of them. Cop cars swarmed into the parking lot. Fortunately, one of my neighbors noticed what was going on and dialed 911 as well. When the police arrived, they were brandishing their firearms and shouting for everyone to put them down. Jessica and Hannah made an unsuccessful attempt to flee. Until a police officer tackled her, Rachel would not put down her phone. Katie, who was still holding the fucking knife block, was yelling that they were defending themselves and that I had attacked them. I was bleeding profusely across the parking lot in the meantime, obviously not resisting. And it was captured on at least 3 cameras: Rachel's stupid live stream, my phone, and the building security. The following few hours flew by. Police, interviews, the ambulance trip, the emergency room, and pictures of all my wounds. In addition to the stab wound, I appeared to have been through a few rounds in the UFC octagon, had 2 broken ribs, and had suffered a concussion. The worst part is that they were at the police station fighting with the officers about getting their phones back so they could erase things while I was in the emergency room. "If you look at our group chat, it will be misinterpreted," said Rachel, who is a lawyer. The days that followed were chaotic. The nurse asked me how much agony I was experiencing the first night. I mentioned 4 or 5, not to mention shattered ribs. They gave me the excellent stuff because they thought I was being harsh. The victim advocate from the DA's office arrived to guide me through the legal procedure as I was being stitched up. She didn't realize how accurate her statement was, but I recall her adding, "This is one of the clearest cases of premeditated assault I've seen in years." While I was high as a kite from the drugs, Katie and her psycho squad, meanwhile, stayed. Overnight in the county jail, they were so determined to coordinate their stories that they even had to be placed in different prisons. As if it were a television drama, Rachel insisted on getting her one phone call. Jessica used the classic, "Are you aware of who I am?" move. Because her fancy jacket had my blood on it, Hannah lost it when they took it as proof. The pleasant portion is about to begin. Do you recall that Rachel was filming everything? In fact, she was broadcasting it live to their exclusive Instagram group. All of the officers' phones and social media accounts were subject to warrants, they discovered. Months of preparation in addition to the attack. This was no accident. These sophisticated professionals had a whole plan. Make me angry, film me being abusive, edit the video, file false charges of domestic violence, get me arrested and evicted, help Katie move in with Michael, then wait until the wedding date. Passed before filing for divorce on the grounds of emotional trauma, using the video to obtain additional money. They put everything in writing. They even prepared notes about who would say what and camera angles. The best part? They used their business phones for all of this. But hold on, things will improve. I was still in the hospital 2 days. After the attack, Katie showed up at work and told my employees and clients that I was abusive, that I had attacked her friends, and that people deserved to know the truth. My assistant manager, Dave, who is a real one, captured the entire incident on security footage and called the police. Before being jailed for breaking the emergency restraining order, she performed this trick 3 more times. Every time. She brought a different acquaintance to witness her story, and Maria, who had not been detained. They also filmed it, most likely in the hopes of establishing proof. Warning, the videos were ultimately used against them. Then Mikkel, do you recall him? As the boyfriend of the lawyer got involved. This genius began emailing me and the police officers who detained his girlfriend's friends, threatening emails. He sent these emails from his law business full of movie villain cliches you don't know who you're dealing with. I have pals in the DA's office, and this will all go away if you dismiss the charges. A lawyer with a license, threatening both law enforcement and a victim. From his authenticated work account, when they received those, the DA's office literally started to salivate. Their powerful defense lawyers appeared at the bail hearing. Around a week after the attack, looking as though they had just stepped off the set of a television court drama, they were smug and self-assured, discussing their clients' community standing and stellar reputations. The prosecutor stood up and began dropping bombs, and the judge, an elderly man who appeared to be about to nod off during their entire speech, suddenly woke up. They included full security footage from multiple building cameras. My phone recording, Rachel's live stream, group chat messages, screenshots of them Googling how to make self-defense look real, and what happens if you stab someone in self-defense. Michael's threats, Katie's harassment at work, medical records that only showed defensive wounds, witness statements from neighbors, the knife bearing Hannah's fingerprints, and my DNA. Oh my God, the judge's face. In around 2 seconds, he turned from a slumbering grandfather to a ruthless rage. He set each of them a $500,000 bail amount. Because Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel were deemed flight risks, they were required to wear ankle monitors and give up their passports. They all apparently have assets and accounts abroad. Despite having reduced bail and fewer charges, Maria and Ashley, who were not directly involved in the physical assault, were nonetheless had to wear ankle monitors. Katie had to give up her passport after being charged with conspiracy. About 2 weeks later, however, the genuine bombshell was revealed. After spiraling after the attack, Ashley finally snapped. She wanted to strike a bargain, so her lawyer called the DA's office. It turns out that the others were even more clear about their plans in another group chat that she had that they were unaware of. She had videos of them talking about how to make it appear like self-defense. Voicemails from Katie explaining how they had rehearsed the attack at Maria's home gym, and messages explaining how they picked my apartment because they knew where the security cameras were and believed they could exploit the footage. What's the best part? She had a video of them all having a good time at a wine bar after Katie got engaged, and they were arranging for me to help her get a larger divorce payment. This was taken on the evening I made the proposal. They were actually planning how to ruin my life while I was texting our relatives the good news. About 7 months after the incident, in November, the trial got underway. Those were difficult months. Maria and Ashley, two of Katie's acquaintances who weren't incarcerated, continued spreading false information about me across the community. They created fictitious social media profiles to share edited footage of the assault, attempted to get in touch with my staff to gather information, and even visited my parents' home to share their side of the story. Since this was a criminal matter, the DA's office gave my lawyer, a small woman in her 40s who appeared to be everyone's favorite aunt, but was utterly terrifying in court. Her first advice to me was to keep a record of everything and to ignore any attempts to get in touch, so I did. Everything went into a folder, including phony accounts and harassment attempts. That only strengthened their argument. The actual trial was bizarre. They had an intriguing defense plan, despite the fact that there was no proof of abuse. They attempted to justify their actions by saying they were defending Katie from an abusive relationship. Their lawyers continued to portray me as this violent, domineering lover because iCheck's notes caught their client cheating and ordered her to leave. Even though they were actually carrying blades to assault me, it took me 2 whole days to testify. Their attorneys did everything they could to make me lose my temper, including accusing me of lying, implying that I was the one who was abusing Katie, and even attempting to portray me as homophobic because I didn't want her to spend time with her friends by herself while she was unfaithful to me. But I just kept stating the truth because bartending teaches you to remain composed when people are acting like total nightmares. The case presented by the prosecution was a gem. In the courtroom, they set up a large TV screen and arranged everything chronologically. Security footage of them coming to my apartment and spreading out to trap me. My phone recording of them attacking me. Rachel's live stream of the attack. Police body cam footage of them being arrested. Video of Katie harassing me at work. Screenshots of their group chats where they planned everything. Michael's threatening emails. Medical photos of my injuries. The knife with Hannah's prints and my blood on it, and more. Ashley's testimony, however, was the true highlight. She had said everything out and accepted the plea bargain, which was a wise choice. She explained to the jury how months had been spent planning this. How Katie wanted to wait until the wedding because she believed she would receive more money in a divorce, even though she had been cheating since before the engagement. How they had planned to make the attack appear to be self-defense, and had actually rehearsed it at Maria's gym. The expressions on the jurors' faces when she testified were invaluable. It wasn't simply a few pals that went far to defend their friend. This was a well-thought-out scheme to set me up, have me arrested, and assist Katie in defrauding me throughout our divorce. After that, Katie stood up for her friends. A huge error. It was a catastrophe. She was allowed to talk herself into a confession by the prosecutor. She began sobbing as she talked about how afraid she was of me, even though she had no proof, and had chosen to live with me. When they showed her the messages they had sent her about the incident, she became enraged. She began screaming at me, saying that I deserved it for looking through her iPad. The best part of the worst? She unintentionally said under oath that Michael, do you recall him, the lover of the lawyer, had assisted her in fabricating the police report accusing me of abuse. The prosecutor's eyes lit up as brightly as if it were Christmas morning. After then, their defense collapsed. The jury found them guilty in under 6 hours. The stabby squad, Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel, were found guilty of conspiracy, attempted aggravated assault, and a host of other offenses. On counts of conspiracy and accessory, Maria was found guilty. Because Ashley testified, her plea agreement resulted in probation. Something other was the sentencing hearing. The judge was incensed, remarked that their position as lawyers made it much worse because they knew what they were doing was improper, calling it one of the most cunning and malevolent cases he had seen in 30 years. Hannah's final penalties include 36 months in state prison, 24 months without parole, and 5 years of probation. Jessica is identical to Hannah. Rachel is identical to Hannah. Maria, 300 hours of community service, 18 months of probation. Ashley's testimony against the others earned her a 12-month probationary period. Katie has already accepted a plea agreement, but she is still awaiting her own trial. Michael, oh, wait till you find out what transpired with him. They're professional. Licenses were revoked. Attorneys were, of course, disbarred. The physician's license was revoked. The finance executive's certifications were all revoked. They've lost their expensive careers. They've ruined their reputations. For 3 long years they were deprived of their freedom.